indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Quorum call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? If so, the clerk will take the call. There being 130 members present, the House is now in session. Clerk will read the journal from the previous day.
Annapolis, Maryland, March the 14th, 2021.
Recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Moves so much be considered the reading of journal from the previous day.
So ordered petitions, memorials, and other papers. Quorum call.
Madam Speaker. I'll get it for you. Hang on.
Clerk will take the call. There are 133 members present. The House is still in session. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 8. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 14, Compensation to Individual Erroneously Convicted, Sentenced, and Confined, the Walter Lomax Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Are there any amendments to the bill or to its title? Is there any debate? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 14, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 35, Procurement Prevailing Wage, Applicability.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 93 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 35, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 202, Correctional Services, Parole, Life Imprisonment.
It's on third reading and final passage.
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Body, we had a great debate earlier today about another bill that frankly did something pretty similar here but was addressed towards juveniles. And we discussed that juveniles are different. Their brains are not quite as developed, and so we need to treat them differently. But that's not what this bill does. We're the policymakers, not judges. We have to decide how much time in a relative range do we and the citizens of Maryland think people deserve for the various crimes that they commit. The people don't always say what they want the time to be, but the people, by and large, want truth in sentencing. They want to know when they're sitting in a courtroom listening to the judge say what the sentence is, that the sentence is what the judge says it is. But that's not what we have in Maryland. We have to do complicated mathematics and estimations to give victims an even close to accurate portrayal of how long the perpetrators are actually going to be in jail. And then we have to explain what diminution credits are. And this bill simply does more of the same. It walks us away from truth in sentencing. It makes it victims and their families feel like they are not getting justice. If we as a body decide we should have a smaller amount of time for crimes, that's one thing. But that's not what these bills do. These bills just make it so that the regular people, the people that we represent, have no idea what is going on in our state with our justice system. Body, I urge a red vote on this. I will be voting red. My constituents want to know when they hear a judge say 40 years, it actually means 40 years. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? Not, the clerk will take the call. There being 89 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 202 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 494, Juveniles Convicted as Adults, Sentencing, Limitations, and Reduction, Juvenile Restoration Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. This gentleman from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the chairman for the opportunity to present an amendment. I have an amendment at the desk, Amendment 6034271.
Amendment number 1.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If I could ask the sponsor, well, I guess that would the floor leader, a quick question.
Will I do?
Apologies. Mr. Chair, I appreciate the opportunity. I just wanted to ask, does the bill as it stands today, both the Senate and the House version, allow in the first sentence, that would be line 12, that a judge may impose a sentence less than the minimum term required under law?
That's what the bill says
Okay.
right now as presented, yes.
Okay, thank you. So on the amendment, Madam Speaker, this is a bipartisan and common sense amendment. The amendment simply says this, that a judge may, subject to the Maryland sentencing guidelines, impose a sentence less than the minimum term required under law. And I want to point you to the purpose of these sentencing guidelines. There are 6 purposes stated on the website of the Maryland State Commission on Criminal Sentencing Policy, which establishes the guidelines. The first is that the sentencing should be fair and proportional and reduce unwarranted disparity. The second, that the guidelines, that the sentencing policies should help citizens understand how long a criminal will be confined, just as we heard some argument earlier. And then third, that the preservation of meaningful judicial discretion will be had. Fourth, that the guidelines will be guidelines, voluntary. Fifth, that the prioritization of prison usage will be for violent and career criminals. And sixth, that the imposition would be the most appropriate criminal penalties. Now, the Guidelines Commission that sets up the guidelines for Maryland is a bipartisan commission. It includes people appointed by the governor, the Chief Judge of the Court of Appeals of Maryland, the President of the Senate, and the Speaker of the House. And it also includes ex officio members, the Honorable Brian Frosch, the Public Defender Paul DeWolf, and the Secretary of the Department of Public Safety, Robert Green. Esteemed individuals of all backgrounds and expertise establish the guidelines. Truly bipartisan. The history, I won't go into depth in the history, but the current executive director is none other than the esteemed David Soleil from the University of Maryland, Department of Criminology and Criminal Justice. He has an esteemed background, particularly in juvenile delinquency and the history of it impacting sentencing. He actually serves on many different committees, and he was elected to the Executive Board of the National Association of Sentencing Commissions, and he served as a vice president of the same for 2 years. So this is an esteemed body that has set forth very balanced and bipartisan guidelines, and in discussions with members of the State's Attorneys Association, the bill as written does not provide the necessary clarity. the clarity that when a judge departs from the mandatory statutory sentencing, that it should also not depart from the guidelines. Now, I understand that the argument is that the guidelines will be consulted anyway, but that's not my amendment. This amendment is to require the guidelines to not be departed from when a judge voluntarily decides to depart from the statutory minimums. For instance, carjacking. So in a carjacking case, with an armed, with a weapon, a gun, there's a 5 to 30 year range under the guidelines. But if you don't have the guidelines, you could literally have a judge sentence the person to time served and let him out. That is not justice according to the bipartisan commission that this body right here established in Maryland. And so it truly is a bipartisan amendment. With that, I would move the amendment. Thank you.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd ask the body to resist the amendment. The guidelines, as the good gentleman from Frederick just said, are in fact voluntary. They're voluntary on the court, and adding this language in statute and requiring the guidelines to be adhered to is not something we do generally with the sentencing guidelines, and I don't believe is necessary. As was mentioned a moment ago, there is a clear requirement that reconsiderations for a crime of violence, of which are the crimes we're talking about, that a sentencing guidelines worksheet would be required anyway. So I don't think this language is necessary. I think it's superfluous, and I ask you to reject the amendment.
Maker of the amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just briefly, it's not superfluous because this does not allow a judge to go beyond the guidelines. That's the important point. That doesn't bind the judge to the guidelines, so it is voluntary. But if the judge were to go, the judge would not be permitted with this amendment to go outside of those minimums, and that would be the intent. So with that, I'd move the amendment. Thank you.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Clerk will take the call. There being, the amendment fails. Bill is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? What's that? What's that? The clerk will take the call. There being 88 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 494, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 817, Unemployment Insurance Study on Systems Reforms.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? Not, the clerk will take the call. There being 108 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 817, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 819, Unemployment Insurance Weekly Benefit Amount, Income Disregard.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate?
Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Carroll.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask a question. I know we've had this in front of us, but a question came to mind.
Recognizing the floor leader.
Yes.
So do you have any testimony what the impact could be on the small businesses and their ratings?
No, we don't believe that. No, there will not be any impact on this, according to the fiscal note, because it's going to take them so long to build the trust fund back up that this little bit isn't going to have an effect on them. And remember, this is only during the state of emergency. So once that ends, it's over.
Thank you. And I understand there's another bill in that would make sure that the trust fund is, that small businesses will not be impacted by the rate increases, and that bill hasn't passed yet. So is that still a live bill that would ensure that our small business would not have these huge rate increases?
What bill are you? What bill? Could you
I think it's
clarify
House
that? What bill
Bill
are you talking about?
811 would help to make sure the UI rates for small business would not increase. Has that been built into this, or is that a bill that is moving along?
Yes, that bill is moving along. I haven't heard anything. I haven't heard anything about whether it's coming or not. But
My main issue is that this is not going to affect the ongoing rates of small businesses because they're in trouble now. Just want to get your assurance that you believe that's not going to be the case.
I just wanted to point out that the cross-file of this has passed.
I understand. I understand that, but I just came to my attention from the chamber. They were concerned about it. And I just want to get your commitment that it's not going to make the rates go up, that there will be some holding of the rates for our small businesses.
Yes, this shouldn't make the rates go up. This won't keep them in Table F for any longer period of time.
And this is only good for during the pandemic.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there any further debate? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change your vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 104 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 819, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 893, Unemployment Insurance Revisions and Special Enrollment Period for Health Benefits.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? Not. The clerk will take the call. There being 102 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 893, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 95. Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 409, Juveniles Convicted as Adults, Sentencing, Limitations, and Reduction, Juvenile Restoration Act.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate?
Madam Speaker.
Recognize the gentleman from Hartford.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This is one of those bills that we've had this session that's been difficult conversations, valid points on all sides, and another one of those bills that, it's very difficult. I don't think we can question the why. We're trying to give individuals who committed crimes as children an opportunity to successfully re-enter society. And again, I support that. I support what this bill is trying to do. So to talk about what exactly this bill does, just to make sure we're clear, is an individual after 20 years, or one of the things this bill does, an individual after 20 years will have an opportunity to petition the court to have their sentence reduced, which could include all the way down to time served. And if they fail, they can do it in 3 years later. And if they fail again, they can do it another 3 years later, up to 3 total times. So what this means is an individual, after only serving 20 years for a very severe crime, could have their sentence reduced all the way down to time served, and not parole, not reduced, could walk and their sentence be completed after only 20 years. And the reason we talk about Officer Amy Caprio so much is because I think it's something relevant and recent that certainly falls within these guidelines. You know, we talk a lot about the system being fixed or broken. You know, we've had a lot of bills this session that talk about the system being broken and us trying to correct the criminal justice system. But when we talk about some of the worst offenders that we addressed today in some amendments trying to remove or exempt some of the very worst offenders, individuals who committed terrible sex crimes against elderly, murdering law enforcement, murders that were a hate crime. Unfortunately, those were rejected. But the reason we rejected those amendments is because we said the system will get it right. The system will prevent those terrible people from being able to re-enter society too soon under this bill. So I'm having a hard time reconciling is on one hand, we're saying the system's broken, can't be trusted, we must fix it. And on the other hand, in this one situation, this is the one scenario where the system will get it right. Everywhere else is broken, we got to fix it, we got to work on it. And I agree, there's a lot of fixes we need. But we're saying in this one scenario, this is the one scenario, we're good, don't have to worry about it. The system's going to get it right. And I can reconcile that. Another piece that was discussed today was about revenge and retribution versus justice. And it's a very interesting conversation. We have a lot of bills this year dealing with, again, police reform, criminal justice reform. And the police reform package, I think at the heart of it, is trying to catch and stop bad cops. And I think we're all on board with that. But are those bills about revenge and retribution against bad cops? Or are those bills about justice? And that's what I'm trying to reconcile is how can trying to deliver justice be about revenge? I certainly don't think this body is trying to get revenge against law enforcement on the police reform package. I don't. I think we're trying to find some solutions, and we're going to agree or disagree on that, and we're going to work through that. But just to say this bill trying to hold people that have committed terrible acts accountable, help the victims find justice, help society find justice, is revenge. I just don't think that's the case. And that's why we worked very hard today trying to eliminate, again, only the most heinous crimes out of this bill, so those individuals may not slip through what many in this body have referred to as a broken criminal justice system. I wish we could have made it a little bit better and addressed some of those things, but sadly we didn't. So now, unfortunately, on this bill, if we vote for this bill, we would have created a pathway, again, not a guarantee, a pathway for individuals who murdered law enforcement, for individuals who killed somebody in the name of a hate crime, for individuals who committed terrible acts against elderly and disabled people. Not a guarantee, but a pathway, and a pathway made possible not only through this bill, but by a broken criminal justice system. And this can't be we just can't have faith that this is the one place that this bill is going to get it right. So please consider that when voting this bill. I'll be voting right on this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Carroll in the Annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. You know, when I was a kid back in the 70s, and in case you were wondering, I'm talking about the 1970s, there was a great television show that I watched every week. It was called Beretta, starring Robert Blake. And some of you folks with gray hair like me may remember that show. It had a parrot or a cockatoo that was white, and it was a great show. But what was greater than the show was its theme song, which still resonates with me some 45 years later. And it went something like, "Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Don't do it." And this bill turns that notion on its head. Now, my friend from Charles County may regard this as a commercial, but I suspect I'm the only one in this body who's ever defended folks charged with murder. I've handled 2 of those, and, I'm not bragging much, but neither of my clients were convicted of murder. But my experience tells me this: the prosecution bends over backwards in those cases to prove each and every element of the offenses charged beyond a reasonable doubt and to a moral certainty. And when the state proves its case, there has to be consequences. You see, really, a sentence has multiple functions: punishment, deterrence, and when appropriate, redemption. But folks, I'm here to tell you, after 28 years in the law business, there are folks who are irredeemable. The folks who killed Amy Caprio are irredeemable. The people who murder and rape minor children and who engage in what my friend, the chair of the committee, called, quote, awful crimes, don't deserve multiple bites at the apple. And frankly, implementing the provisions of this bill severely undercut the ability of sentencing to serve as a deterrent. Eliminating life without the possibility of parole for juveniles charged with the most horrific crimes undercuts the notion of deterrence. Tragically, we spend way too much time down here coddling criminals. We've done everything but give them a ticker tape parade upon a finding of guilt. Evil exists. And while I believe in redemption as a rule, in some cases, redemption has to be left to the Almighty. Don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the sponsor of the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Colleagues, allow me a few minutes to explain the why in this bill. Not everyone knows this about me, but my mother is retired law enforcement of 30 years, DEA. I talked to her about this bill before I introduced it. No one has a monopoly over representing victims. You know, the provisions we have in this bill make sure that a judge has to review the seriousness of the crime that happened. And you have to go back to the jurisdiction in which you did the act for this resentencing. There is no guarantee here of anything. What we're trying to do is make sure that our sentences are age appropriate. And that's what the Supreme Court has repeatedly held, that children are different than adults because of the brain science the committee chair has already gone over, but that we should hold children accountable in age-appropriate ways. You give a finite sentence to people who you think are fixed and cannot change. And if the brain science tells us that children are constantly changing, then therefore they can possibly change. And therefore they need the opportunity to show if they are redeemable or not. Now, if they can't, they're not going to be released. The reason why nationally there's a 1.1 recidivism rate is because the majority of these folks don't get out. They have to go before a judge and plead their case and show how after 20 years they've changed. And by the way, only 20 years is not a thing. 20 years is a long period of time. We were talking about the DC sniper case earlier. 20 years ago, I was in high school, just about to start high school, when that was going on. It is nothing to scoff at. You know, this state has passed, this bill has passed other states in a bipartisan manner. I want to add something that the Republican Senate President from Ohio, Larry Obhoff, said when they passed this bill back in December. He said, "We are a nation that believes in redemption. Ohio has to become the 25th state to pass this bill. President Trump's First Step Act shows us that we are a nation who believes in redemption, and Ohio needs to follow suit." In Maryland, we have 47 people serving life without the possibility of parole, over 400 people with life equivalent sentences. We should address the racial disparities that are here too. Nationally, black kids are 10 times more likely to be sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. Here in Maryland, the disparity is even worse. 82% of the people serving life without the possibility of parole for crimes they committed as children are black. That's data for here in Maryland. When life equivalents are added to this, the disparity increases to 87%. So let's be clear, 87% of the people who will be eligible for judicial review of their sentences under the JRA are black. That disparity is worse than what it is in Louisiana, Mississippi, or Alabama. Effectively, in our state, this sentence is reserved almost exclusively for black children. Let's talk about victims a little bit more. As I said, no one can claim a monopoly over victims. I talked earlier about Paul LaRufa, who was shot 5 times by a 17-year-old who's testified in support of this bill 4 times in the last 2 years. I also want to talk about Daryl Green, another Maryland resident, who lost his brother after he was stabbed to death over a pair of shoes. Daryl has since written a book called Deep Forgiveness and founded an organization by the same name, and he's testified also in support of the JRA. This bill, we spoke about state's attorneys. This bill is supported by Attorney General Brian Frosh and many staff and elected state's attorneys, including Marilyn Mosby and Aisha Braveboy, the 2 state's attorneys that represent the jurisdictions that have the majority of the folks with these sentences. Justice is not a zero-sum game. This bill strikes a measured balance between justice for victims, ensuring public safety, and treating children differently than adults. And something was addressed in the earlier session that I didn't respond to, but I do want to right now, which is, for the record, these people are not godless. They are not godless. We have success stories right here in our own backyard. I want to talk about Eddie Ellis, another Maryland resident who's testified multiple times in support of the JRA. When he was 16 years old, he was sentenced to over 20 years for a homicide charge. His sentencing judge told him that he was a menace to society. After serving 15 years of that sentence, 10 of which was in solitary confinement, which is another issue, Eddie was released in 2006. Since then, he served on the board of directors of a national legal organization and helped with client-centered training for lawyers, probation officers, and social workers. He leads the Incarcerated Children's Advocacy Network called ICANN, which consists of over 140 people who were given adult sentences as children. They serve as preschool counselors, substance abuse counselors, entrepreneurs, and many more. I'm very proud of this brother. Just last week, he was before the Georgetown Law School students, talking to them about his experience. The brain science proves that children are different than adults. Our Supreme Court in its Miller and Montgomery cases tell us that we should have age-appropriate sentences. Nothing is guaranteed in this bill. Nothing whatsoever. Folks have talked about redemption and faith. I'll tell you, in my Bible, in the Gospels, I don't see redemption but anywhere. We either believe it or we don't. The question we're being asked to answer in this bill is, do you believe in the redemptive quality of the human condition for kids? I say yes, and I urge a favorable vote. Thank you very much.
Madam Speaker.
Gentlelady from Carroll in the Annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. When we talk about children, and the word children has been mentioned many, many times, when a so-called child commits rape, murder against adults and other children, then they need to remain in jail, in my opinion. And when you talk about 20 years, and that's a long time. Yeah, 20 years is a long time. How about the families who lost their loved ones? That's forever. That's longer than 20 years. And when you talk about faith, which we've done many times today, my Bible tells me, thou shalt not kill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the minority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll just say a couple of things. As you know, I'm a great big softy. I care very much for most of you. And with not knowing the details of this bill, there is an aspect to it that appeals to me. The motivations for many of you who are supporting it appeals to me. After 20 years, if somebody can demonstrate in a way that satisfies what this bill sets out, there's something about that appeals to me. However, I think the bill, as it's drafted, goes too far. For example, it was just mentioned that they passed this bill in Ohio. Not actually totally correct. They passed a bill like this, but someone who commits a violent sexual act and then goes on to murder someone is not eligible for parole if they get sentenced to life without the possibility of parole. So it's not exactly correct to say that 25 other states have passed this bill. In my opinion, this bill goes way too far. I hope you've received correspondence from Marylanders. I have correspondence from Marylanders who this bill will impact. One of those is a man named Stephen Robinson, whose son was murdered by a juvenile in 2002. And he's not saying, please don't pass a bill like this. What he and many others have said to us is, please make it more considerate to victims and their families. Having 3 bites at the apple re-victimizes people's families who have had murdered loved ones. So there's certain aspects to this and, that kind of appeal to me. But this bill, as it's before us, just goes too far, and I urge the body to cast a red vote. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Recognizing the gentleman from Charles.
Colleagues, and I appreciate everything. I don't often genuflect to my colleagues that speak, but I do appreciate what the people that have opposed this bill have said. And this bill, the reason this touches me is because I tried to mention it earlier about the spark because, we think about who these children are. Are they evil? Are they disposable? To be dismissed? But see, in my mind, some of them are treated like animals from the day they're born. They're beaten. They're abused. Emotionally, physically, and sexually. These things they're not born with. For a vast majority, they're taught. The sexual predilections and the brokenness, that lack of humanity where you're not even tethered to this earth, where nothing matters because you don't matter. I know this because I've lived it. I spent my entire childhood. And if you don't think there was moments, two that I remember, where I had my knife right there at my adopted father's neck at 15 and 17. If you don't think for a moment that I don't think that this could be me, but for the grace of God go I can't tell you why I'm here. This isn't for everybody. This bill isn't going to reach those that you guys deem are evil or monsters, but there are some out there that are so broken that they don't know their own worth. They don't know their value. They don't understand that they have a future because nobody has ever told them that. And we hope, beyond hope, just maybe, that in the system they'll meet a person. They'll meet a preacher. They'll meet a God. They'll meet somebody who says, you know what, you're worth more than this. And if we find that spark, I don't want it to extinguish in jail. Because I know the only reason I'm not there is because there is a greater power. I don't want to dismiss these children. I'm not saying everyone is good, but I'm not going to say everyone is evil. They may be monsters, but there are creations too. If we can save them, if we can do our job, then we should give them the opportunity, that light at the end of the tunnel, because some people like me, they just need to hear that they're worth something. And they commit horrible acts. I know what I'm capable of. But I was blessed to not be in those situations. Again, they're not disposable. I appreciate what everybody's saying today. I hope that our situations meld, because at the end of the day, some people aren't going to get it. But there are those out there that are only responding to being kicked and beaten like the dogs and animals that they've been treated their entire little lives. And when they mess up in the most heinous ways that they have to live with for the rest of their lives, I want them to have at least a hope that maybe they can get their lives back together. And maybe somebody can finally look at them and say, you know what? I believe in you. Because they're just kids. Thank you.
Recognizing the gentlelady from Baltimore County.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. That was a rousing speech. The gentleman that ran over Amy Caprio had a mother that loved him and still loves him. She tried desperately to get the state to help her with her child. She called when he absconded with his ankle bracelet, and no one came to help her. Not everybody's experiences are as horrible, truly horrible, as what our colleague has been through. Now, I don't know that child's whole life, but I know for damn sure he had a mother that loved him. That I know. The people of Maryland are sick and tired of being told that people who are murdering our family members are the victims. We are tired of it, Madam Speaker. I'll be red on this bill.
Is there any further debate? The gentlelady from Hartford in the annex.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I too wasn't planned to stand up, but after listening to some of my colleagues, I do appreciate your comments and your thoughts and how you feel about this bill. A lot of these juveniles that have done these crimes, I mean, I'm not going to say that they're unfixable and they shouldn't deserve a second chance, but many cases, in these cases, when they have come to this point, they have done crimes prior to this evil attack of murder that someone doesn't have a chance for. And I know, and we have to be more, my thought is right now, let's put the passion in being proactive. Let's work with these kids prior to them getting to this point. But once they get there, they need to stay there because you are putting our public in danger for another evil attack. I worked for 3 years with students, with boys, young or older teenagers and young adults, for 3 years from boys that came from the Hickey School before it was closed. And I'm telling you, those kids, I had a heart, and we worked with them, we cooked with them, we sat with them, we taught with them. We took them out to places, to ball games that they could never go to. That's where the difference is. Let's work on these kids prior to them getting in that situation to where they do the crime, to where they do have to pay the consequences. So for those reasons, I am voting no on this bill. And I do think and I hope that everybody that has compassion for these kids, they will actually have compassion for those kids before they get to this point. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 86 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 409, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, House Bills number 96. The clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1364, Historic St. Mary's City Fort to 400 Commission.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1364, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 9. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 38, Baltimore County Alcoholic Beverages Board of License Commissioners Qualifications.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 38, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 181, Corporations and Associations Trade Name Certificates Requirements.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 181, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 185, Financial Institutions, Security Questions and Measures.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 105 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 185, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 219, Financial Institutions, Commissioner of Financial Regulation, Money Transmissions.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 219, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 251, Commissioner of Financial Regulation, licensing of non-depository institutions, elimination of paper license requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 251, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 281, Office of the Commissioner of Financial Regulation, sunset extension.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? Not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 281, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 424, Baltimore County Alcoholic Beverages, Class D beer, wine, and liquor license.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 424, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 10. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 386, Harford County Alcoholic Beverages, Assisted Living Program License.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 386, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 390, Harford County Alcoholic Beverages, a gift basket permit.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 390, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 426, Baltimore City, 46th District Alcoholic Beverages Licenses.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 426, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 472, Baltimore City Alcoholic Beverages Districts, Legislative Districting Plan references.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 472, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 547, Baltimore City, 45th District Alcoholic Beverages, Class BD7 license.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker?
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 547, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 715, Wacomico County Alcoholic Beverages License Alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 715, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 854, Queen Anne's County Alcoholic Beverages Unannounced Visits by Inspectors.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 854, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 11. The clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 263, Corporations and Real Estate Investment Trust, miscellaneous.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 127 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 263, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 428, Public Utilities Annual Reports.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 428, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 429, For-Hire Driving and Vehicles Requirements.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 429, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 430, Public Service Commission Virtual Public Hearings.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 430, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 561, Electric Cooperatives Meetings Alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 561, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 907, Human Services Critical Medical Needs Program, Application for Assistance.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 907, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 12. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 451, Garrett County Alcoholic Beverages Act of 2021.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 451, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 693, Frederick County Alcoholic Beverages Stadium License.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 693, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 694, Frederick County Barbershop and Beauty Salon Beer and Wine Licenses, alterations.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 694, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 739, Prince George's County Alcoholic Beverages BLX License.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 131 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 739, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 792, Frederick County Alcoholic Beverages, alcohol by volume, wine.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 792, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 833, Charles County Alcoholic Beverages Class 4 Limited Winery License.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 833, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read the next bill.
Senate Bill 855, Queen Anne's County Alcoholic Beverages Repeal of Place of Worship Prohibition.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 855, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 13. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 110, Private Passenger Motor Vehicle Liability Insurance, notices, alteration of requirements.
It's on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 110, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 153, Renewable Energy Portfolio Standard, Municipal Electric Utilities.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 116 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 153, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 226, Maryland Insurance Administration, Delivery of Notices and Other Communications by Electronic Means.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker,
has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 226, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 458, Insurance Impaired Entities Delinquency Proceedings.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 134 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 458, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 679, Allegheny County Alcoholic Beverages Licenses, Annual Fees.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 679, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
Senate Bill 731, Allegheny and Garrett Counties Alcoholic Beverages Gift Basket Permits.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 731, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 14. Clerk will read the first bill.
Senate Bill 79, Electricity Change of Address, Maintenance of Subscriptions and Contracts.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 133 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 79, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 149, Insurance Application of Premium Tax, Continued Exclusion of Maryland Automobile Insurance Fund.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 149, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 320, Foreign Corporations, Resident Agents, State Department of Assessments and Taxation.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 108 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 320, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 407, Electricity Net Energy Metering Limit.
Is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 94 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 407, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 444, Transforming Manufacturing in a Digital Economy Work Group, Making It in Maryland.
It is on third reading and final passage. The gentleman from Frederick.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have an amendment at the desk. Amendment 293-2291.
Amendment number 1.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Would the floor leader rise for a quick question?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is it true that the Senate version includes small and minority businesses as members of this work group?
Yes.
And is it also true that the House amendment struck that from the bill? That would be lines 19 through 25 of page 3.
I'll take your word for it, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify. Thank you very much. So I have, on the amendment, Madam Speaker, I have a pretty straightforward, I think, attempt to bring back some parity. At this time in Maryland, we all are aware of the plight of small businesses, especially, minority-owned businesses, women-owned businesses. Small businesses comprise, I'm told, about 50% of Maryland's jobs and income. And right now, that's almost 500,000 small businesses. But I'm also informed that over 30,000 small businesses have closed because of the pandemic this year, or since the pandemic. And since the pandemic, the Restaurant Association reports 1.4 billion loss of restaurant revenue. That's just one industry of small business. That's a lot of money lost. That's a lot of businesses lost. And there's estimates of up to 40% of small business restaurants closing if things don't turn around. There's also another estimate of at least double the number of small businesses generally closing very soon if we don't take action. So this amendment is a straightforward amendment to protect and provide an opportunity for small businesses to have a voice in this work group. The Senate, I think, appropriately included small and minority businesses, and this amendment simply strikes the balance back and allows for one representative of the National Federation of Independent Businesses to be appointed to this board, designated by the director of the NFIB, and with that, I'd move the amendment.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Real simple. I urge the rejection of it. They don't want to be on it.
Madam Speaker.
The maker of the motion, are you pushing your amendment? Given the information you just received?
Yes, Madam Speaker, I am definitely pushing the amendment, and that is not my understanding. The small business community has an interest in the work group, and I am informed that they are very much interested in being part.
Madam Speaker, I spoke to the executive director today. They said they're not interested.
Madam Speaker, thank you. So my staff received a text back from the NFIB saying that they're in support of this amendment. That's my understanding. So I would move the amendment.
Committee chair.
I spoke to them, the executive director, this afternoon. He told me they weren't interested. I spoke to him. I didn't get a text. We had a direct conversation, the old school way. They're not interested.
On the amendment, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed?
Roll call, Madam Speaker.
Roll call.
Okay. All right, roll call.
Madam Speaker?
I'm thinking about the bill. Clerk will take the call. The amendment fails. Are there any additional comments on the bill?
Yes, Madam Speaker.
Gentleman from Calvert.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
You have an amendment?
No, Madam Speaker, it's third reader, and I can amend it, but I choose not to. I choose to speak on third readers, if I may.
You've been called on.
Thank you. I appreciate that. So this bill is entitled Transforming Manufacturing in a Digital Economy Work Group, Making It in Maryland. And on the work group, it's basically all state agencies and, of course, naturally, large businesses and the AFL-CIO. The bill engages, in my opinion, in classic crony capitalism because it has and engages large corporations in conjunction with the government to do the following, and this is from the bill. Examine new and viable tax credits if you are the right company. Examine state, current statutory and regulatory authorities In other words, reduce regulations if you are the right company. Recommend additional financial support from the state if you are the right company, which means you're on the work group. And propose annual state funding if you are the right company. And this is my problem with the bill, because if we really are going to acknowledge that there are issues with high taxes, which I think we would all agree they are, or ridiculous regulations, or with difficulty getting financing, then those are things that we could address, and we should address it for all businesses in Maryland, including the small businesses. And while I have no doubt that the chairman, who is a friend, talked to NFIB, I talked to them as well, but I've also talked to tons of small businesses who would love to have an opportunity to have a voice on such a work group. But they're not represented in this bill. They don't have a seat at the table. And I don't think that's funny at all, because they are suffering. And the regulations that this body is putting on them and the taxes always put them at a competitive disadvantage to the large corporations that can often absorb those regulations and those taxes. And this bill doubles down on it. And that is the very definition of crony capitalism and statism. When you have a command and control economy from the state to determine who wins and who loses, that's what this bill does, Madam Speaker. And for all those reasons, I'm voting against this bill. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Is there any further debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 91 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 444, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk, read next bill.
Senate Bill 846, Home Energy Assistance Critical Medical Needs Program, Power to the People Pilot Program,
is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 103 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 846, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Calendar of third reading, Senate Bills number 15. Clerk will read the bill.
Senate Bill 877, Annual Corrective Bill,
is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 877, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read the next bill.
Senate Bill 878, Annual Curative Bill,
is on third reading and final passage. Is there any debate? If not, the clerk will take the call.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, Senate Bill 878, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 2, House bills amended in the Senate.
Madam Speaker.
Clerk will read the bill.
Clerk will read the bill.
House Bill 1372, Blueprint for Maryland's Future, revisions.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to concur with the Senate amendments. Amendment number 1 is technical. Amendment number 2 makes changes including intent language around funding, modifications to maintenance of effort, changes related to summer school programs, tutoring, and supplemental instructions, and clarifying changes around pre-standardized assessments and other technical changes. We move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1372 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 93 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1372, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Concurrence calendar number 3, House bills amended in the Senate. The clerk will read the bill and the Senate amendments.
House Bill 37, procurement, prevailing wage, applicability.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendment exempts legislative bond initiatives from the prevailing wage law. Move to concur with the Senate amendment.
Question before the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 37 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 93 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 37, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 908, unemployment insurance, employer contributions.
It's on third reading. Chair of the committee, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We would move to concur with the Senate amendment. The Senate amendment allows larger nonprofit organizations and governmental entities, those with 50 or more employees, to elect to defer reimbursement payments for quarter 3 of 2021 if federal funding is not available.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 37 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 132 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 908, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1002, unemployment insurance revisions and special enrollment period for health benefits.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendments establish a data sharing requirement and makes other changes to conform the bill to Senate Bill 893, so we would move to concur with the Senate amendments.
The question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1002 is on third reading and final passage. Clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 100 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1002, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed. Clerk will read next bill.
House Bill 1138, unemployment insurance, Maryland Department of Labor, accountability and oversight.
Recognizing the committee chair.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The Senate amendments alter the on-off triggers for disaster determination and streamline a reporting requirement. Move to concur with the Senate amendment.
Question for the House is to concur in the Senate amendments. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. House Bill 1138 is on third reading and final passage. The clerk will call the roll.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their vote? Does anyone care to change their vote? If not, the clerk will take the call. There being 135 votes in the affirmative, House Bill 1138, having received the constitutional majority, is declared passed. That ends the work at the desk. Quorum call before adjournment. We will be in at 10 tomorrow morning.
Madam Speaker.
Has everyone recorded their presence? Clerk will take the call. There being 134 members present, the House is still in session, recognizing the majority leader.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House stand adjourned until Wednesday, March 31st at 10 a.m., Legislative Day, March 16th.